so what I found that was, I thought was really interesting when I found some statistics on home working, or how people have gone from a working in office to hybrid or home working. And this was from the statistics of, no, what's it called?
Office ONS, is it?
There you go, ONS, Office of National Statistics. And in April 2022, 23% of businesses said they were planning to use home working as a permanent business model. And I thought it was interesting, actually, because we forget, because it was only February that we sort of came out of lockdown, and we haven't gone back since. So it makes sense in that now businesses are kind of making these promises, or, you know, they're thinking about their sort of long-term strategy in relation to it. Before, it was just temporary measure, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's quite a lot attached with that for businesses. I mean, it's a money saver.
Yeah.
You know, save on rent, office rent. I think the other thing that's key is, if you want to attract top talent now, I think the talent has a lot more say in what they want out of the whole working environment. You know, if they want hybrid, or if they want to work from home, and you want that person, then you're going to have to make some allowances,
some adjustments. But it's funny how we call that an adjustment, though, because I think a lot of people will just assume that working from home is a good thing and a benefit, right? But obviously, as we're noticing, working with a more neurodiverse community, that is definitely not always the case. And even where they might think so to start with, and then kind of not necessarily realizing what's wrong, but just kind of, it's not working for them, right, in one way or another.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, so I've had quite a few clients come through who have real issues working from home. One of the sort of biggest things that they cite is this sort of feeling of lack of connection, that physical connection.
Yeah.
And, if you think about us humans and many other species, we're wired for connection. And we feel safe when we're around others. And I think having that lack of, Zoom's great, but it doesn't quite fulfill that physical side of it.
No, it isn't the same. I mean, I feel that in my job as well. Sorry, you continue.
No, not at all. I was just, they often cite this whole, I think, with ADHD, a lot of them are verbal processors.
Yeah.
And so, when they have that kind of shared risk attitude, so, they come up with a great idea, but they want to share it first just to make sure it kind of, sits well with the team or sits well with their colleagues. And doing that over Zoom is not quite the same. You can't sort of tap someone on the shoulder and go, "Oh, what do you think about this?"
Yeah.
Because those, as we know with ADHD, those ideas come thick and fast.
Yeah.
And, you need to get them out immediately,
Yeah, because they go as fast as they come sometimes, right? So unless you have that person like sitting across from you, it might not, you might not get an opportunity to express that or remember to express it. So, I think that's really huge. And I think even though with Zoom, you've got eye contact or other video platforms as well, I suppose, but there's still, there's still something missing, I think. And I think it's that kind of when you're walking into a meeting, you're having a bit of small talk, and you're walking out of a meeting and you can sort of read how people felt it went,
Sure.
You just don't have that. And I don't think we appreciate that those little things matter.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that sort of extends maybe we could talk a bit about accountability.
Yeah.
The accountability of having to turn up for work on time, I know is often a massive challenge for the neurodiverse community, but it does help sort of structure the day around something, in most cases, that's meaningful.
Yeah.
And intentional. And so, having that kind of, it's indirect. Yeah, it's sort of indirect accountability, isn't it?
Yeah, but it is that kind of. I mean, I talk a lot to clients about creating commutes in some ways just to get into starting tasks and that sort of thing. And actually, when we go to work, that is a natural commute. We probably haven't broken it down to see it that way, but it is kind of right. When we go to work, we get up in the morning, we brush our teeth, we have breakfast, and then we get out the door, we get in the car or whatever, right? But all of that time, we're preparing our body and our mind for, here we go, I'm getting into work mode, I'm going to start work.
Sure.
It's not difficult for people normally to start work when they get into work and they're in that environment, because it's a natural, it calls you to work and you've done all the things prior to that calls you to work.
Yeah.
So, and you, I think we're underestimating how much that actually plays an important role for most people, to be fair, but in particular.
Yeah, I love that as well. I mean, actually, this is pre-pandemic. I had a client who was really struggling with that. He came up with this idea, and he would leave his house, walk around the block, and then come back to the house, and that was his commute.
Yeah.
And then come back to his desk at home and start work. But quite cool.
No, I think that's super important. Me and my husband did that as well during the pandemic. We have a dog, so we used the dog as an excuse, and I started it actually. I just thought I just need a dog walk before I start, and then he started to join me, and we still do it, which is really nice actually. It works really well, and it's a good kind of start of the day. But then, even if we get into the office, we then have the challenges in how the office has changed as well, right? Because most offices don't look like they did before. What are you saying around that?
I mean, I'm only getting the stories from my clients, but Tina, you've just left a really busy office, probably really good to have your experience. But just quickly, I can think of one client who I think they're not mandated to go in at all, but she tries to go in because she gets, she feels better structure and, she feels more safe and connected at the office. But it's not necessarily with her own team. So, she then can't bounce the ideas off those particular people. She said also one of her big things was they do a lot of hot desking.
Yeah.
And because she's got, I think she called it a raised desk. I don't think it's a stand-up desk, basically. Sometimes that's not available, and so there are these sort of sacrifices. So I don't think I don't think companies are taking into account that environmental shift. They're allowing people to come back in, but are the accommodations there that they had before?
Yeah.
And in most cases, not really.
Yeah. No, I think that's definitely that's what I'm seeing as well. Hot desking. I mean, hot desking is a big thing, and I didn't even realize how uncomfortable I was with it until I started moving around a bit. In some ways, I think it's good cognitively to sit in different places and experience different things. But, if you're a creature of habit, then there really is not going to be a good, as in you just expand so much more energy on the change as opposed to the work, probably. So it sort of takes away from, it's not an advantage to the employer either, really. And I think that's how they should look at it as well, really. And
sorry. No, go on.
No, I was going to say something completely different. So let's continue.
Oh, right. I was going to say, I think you're bang on, and I think, we're back to this premise of safety. So, as individuals, when we feel safe, we are calm, and our prefrontal cortex has all the resources it needs to actually do a good day's work. And you'll often find that, let's say pre-pandemic, if someone has been coming into an office, they've maybe chosen a spot with their back against the wall, so they're only having to look at 180 degrees. Yeah, all those kinds of things that are implied safety and were a coping strategy. Suddenly all of that gets wiped out, and actually going to the office feels a little more unsafe than perhaps even if they stayed at home. So yeah, I think companies have to start thinking about not just the environmental side of stuff, but actually the ergonomics of where people sit and who they sit next to and how they sit, and what are those needs and accommodations again.
Yeah, and I think that actually crosses over to both in office and at home. So if employers are going to have people working from home, we also need to have a look at the technology needed to work from home can sometimes be really disruptive or just difficult, or just assume that you're going to be absolutely fine with it, but actually there's a whole other dimension to it. And then there's the distractions as well, right? There's an element of distractions, obviously, when you're in the office. But I've had clients say this to me as well, that this, noise in the office can sometimes just go down as white noise, background noise, like it's okay. Whereas it's more disruptive for some people to have just hearing one person talk than hearing 10 people talk, right? You can't make out 10 people talking. So you got that, and in the office potentially, if you've got less people, and then at home, you've got the types of distractions that can maybe be a little bit more emotive, like your children crying or needing something, is gonna be a completely different experience to having work colleagues talking around you, isn't it?
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, you and I had an experience of that, which we won't go into, but I mean, I guess if something happens to a child at school or at home, I mean, or in the workplace or whatever it is, normally the workplace or the school take care of that. But now the child rings you first and says, "Oh, Dad, this has happened," and it's a bit like, "Oh," so now you're kind of like the primary carer, which we are obviously, but the primary carer during doing our job at the same time, and it's
all the time. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Which is actually then leading into this kind of flexibility, right? So we're doing that because there is some sort of flexibility with everything we do now. If we are working from home or hybrid and whatnot, it's like we can just shift that time and we can do it wherever. And as we know, that freedom isn't always that great, right? What's good about going into an office is you get automatic boundaries to some extent.
Yeah.
Right? You come in, you start. That's the starting point. You know that. There's no confusion about that. And then we talked about commute to work. When you're then in the office, you get these cues when it's time to go home, right? You've got that colleague who always does something in a certain time of day, so you sort of know, oh, that's 4:00, or they always leave at 5, so then and it just gives you cues that okay, it's time to wrap up, and then of course you leave, so that work has ended. That's it. Whereas at home,
you leave it there, don't you? You leave it in the office.
Yeah.
Well, probably not as much as we used to because we got gadgets and all that sort of stuff. But if you want to, you can.
Yeah, if you want to, you can. Absolutely. Yeah. It's certainly clearer boundaries, I think. And I think when you have too many options and too much flexibility, I think that really I come across clients as well who are just working more because they're just not sure they've done enough.
Yeah. Right? There are, as you say, there aren't those natural cues to say, hey, everyone, you've done as much as you can today.
Yeah.
Off you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's...
I think, I think so.
So what are we going to recommend for... Because, we talk to clients with these challenges all the time.
Yeah.
So, what are the sort of things would you say that you are talking to them on about how to manage these sort of things?
Well, interestingly, these are generally their ideas, but that's coaching.
Yeah, exactly. They know best.
So these are anecdotal from our clients, just so you know. They're not our strategies, but they make perfect sense. So one of them is using co-working spaces. And the reason for that is, you can almost book a dedicated desk, day in, day out for over a certain period of time. I suppose the other thing is you're generally surrounded by people because they're quite popular things now, co-working spaces. So, you do get that connection. Yes, you're not connecting with people in your industry and stuff like that. But it does provide that element of safety, kind of being around people. I think on the negative side, the downsides that have been particularly reported, distractions, but you probably get that in the office anyway. So noise cancelling headphones, that kind of stuff. Will you always get the same desk? ?
Yeah.
So we're back to
that's
safety
where
again.
People can talk to their employers as well, I think, about, if they need certain things in order for those days in the office to work, to ask for them from a powerful place, right? But also, I think and I think that's what we do in coaching, right? Allowing people to really get to know themselves. Yeah. So, we said in the beginning that people don't really know necessarily what they need or what they like. We just assume home working and hybrid is going to be good, and then you sort of notice maybe what's not working, and you don't necessarily think it's the home working, but just working out sort of what. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't work, but just working out, like you said, the particular thing that isn't working. Is it the noise? Is it the distraction? So therefore, is it noise cancelling headphones that are the solution, or is it changing the environment?
I think it's a bunch of stuff you need to basically go and tick off. How does my environment feel? Oh, yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
And that could be at home and at work. Okay, well, it's not the environment then. I don't know. Is it a connection thing? Do you feel lonely working from home? And if the answer is yes, then perhaps you need more community around you.
Yeah.
And I presume you can either find that, advocate for that at work, go and work in the canteen.
Or build those communities, online as well, right? Even though they online with work, or
Sure. Yeah, I think it's we're in a sort of different, a sort of new, what do they call it, the fourth industrial revolution or whatever it is.
Oh, I know that. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, this is these are structural changes. They're coming because the more technology we get, the more sort of independence and choice we get around where we can work and how we can work. But I sort of wonder whether we're forgetting a fundamental, which is the disconnect. Being disconnected from people physically can take its toll.
Yeah, it's making sure that we think of the human in the middle of it all.
Yeah.
Rather than the logistics of getting somewhere, or the cost of work, and the commute and rents of offices and that sort of thing. Yeah.
And I think that's that is a very reasonable adjustment that you can go to the employer with.
I agree. Yeah.
Cool.
And as far as tips goes as well, I think that bookending the day, or like whether you go to work or not, try and work out a routine for before, when you start work and when you finish work, so that you give yourself some clarity and are able to tick that box at the end of the day and get that sort of dopamine hit of did that.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think all the stuff in between, taking breaks, taking meaningful breaks, ones that maybe involve a bit of movement. I'm not sort of advocating for star jumps and stuff like that, but maybe like a walk into the garden, or check out the goldfish, or
No,
going
completely.
stroke the dog. I don't know, whatever it is.
Yeah. No, and I like that you said that as well, because I think that's really important distinction to make, that movement or just getting away from your desk can be so many different things. But when you read newspapers or articles and these sort of things, it tends to be really prescriptive, that 5-star jump today. And
do a headstand.
Yeah, exactly. And your life will be fine. And that's the point, is coming back to kind of get to know yourself and find something that works for you. How do you know it works for you? You keep doing it like it works.
Well,
you do a version of it.
Make it fun.
And make it
just
fun,
make it fun, and you'll do it.
Yeah, fun and enjoyable.
Go and have a dance.
Sounds like a great place to round up on, do you think?
Cool. Yeah. Brilliant.
It's always really good to talk about these things.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Hopefully others will find it useful as well. So, yeah, there we go. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Tina.
Cheers.